lights out and away we go, and Hamilton does get away very well indeed. Bottas doesn't. Verstappen's already nearly alongside him, and there goes Lando Norris down the inside.
Hello Formula 1 and IndyCar fans. Welcome to Formula Pun Racer. Today is August 7th, 2021. Let's get down to business, shall we, with the news of F1 racing in Hungary last weekend. I'm sure we're all hungry for excitement. Well, last week we got it at the Hungaroring in Budapest. On the first corner of the first lap, chaos would ensue because, for the first time in 36 years, rain played a part in the race itself. Even though it actually started in the beginning and went away, and it was all sunny afterwards, in fact, from there on. But what happened was, with all the cars on intermediate tires, Valtteri Bottas at the start, in his Mercedes, misjudged his braking point, braked too late, it was going too fast, and ran slap into Lando Norris and McLaren, bringing out a red flag, which also took out a bunch of other cars, causing a chain reaction crash for a lot of others. LanceStroll of Canada and his Aston Martin, he was trying to take evasive action by cutting the corners, but he also was too fast and went smack into Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. I should imagine that Charles Leclerc Ferrari was the most distraught of all the drivers in that chain reaction crash there. And even though LanceStroll will probably get a grid penalty in the next round in Belgium for causing this, even though he did his best to try to take evasive maneuvers to no avail, it's unfortunate that Charles Leclerc will probably have to endure a grid penalty too, because his internal combustion engine in his Ferrari is destroyed, irreparable, so he'll have to get a replacement done, and that's going to be costly. So he'll probably endure a grid penalty too. That happens when you have to change engines. But at the same time, with these budget caps in F1 the way they are, it seems a little unfair for some of the teams, because they have to then use their budgets sometimes to get their cars repaired in an accident, which makes their plans even more difficult to comprehend. By the same token, some teams were saying that other teams, if they cause it, should pay for any damages they cause, like Hamilton's Mercedes when he pitted Max Verstappen's Red Bull at Silverstone, or his teammate Bottas when he caused that chain reaction crash last week in Hungary to take out like the Red Bulls of Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris of McLaren, and himself. And then, of course, with LanceStroll and the Ferrari, I wonder if Mercedes should pay for that as well, because it was all part of a chain reaction such. Who knows? At least Valtteri Bottas was man enough to admit this was all his fault, and he just takes full responsibility. Well, at least that's mature of him. With that said, when the race would be stopped to clear up the way this wreckage, it would be, well, about half an hour before things would get going again, and the sun would come out. But the more interesting thing is, while Lewis Hamilton stayed on intermediates, right before the standing restart, all the other cars in the field would duck into the pits to change from intermediates to dry, and with Lewis being the only driver on the standing start, shown here.
It's going to be lights out and away we go for Lewis Hamilton only. The race leader is the only driver.
Yeah, I gotta admit, that is one of the weirdest and bizarrest restarts in Formula 1 I've ever seen in my life. Only one car, the rest go in the pit lane, but eventually, in a way, the joke was on Lewis Hamilton.
What?
Naturally, you must be wondering, how is the joke on Lewis Hamilton? Despite taking a big lead at the restart, he would have to pit a lap or two later to change tires from intermediates to dries, as the sun was out and drying the track like there was no rain at all. So that cost him the lead, and the race would be on for victory between AlpineRenault driver Esteban Ocon of France and Germany's Sebastian Vettel of Aston Martin. But interestingly enough, Lewis Hamilton managed to claw his way back from outside the top 10 in a ding-dong struggle between AlpineRenault driver Fernando Alonso for fourth, and managing to eventually get by Carlos Sainz Jr. as well for third. But in the end, the Frenchman Esteban Ocon would manage to hold off Sebastian Vettel at the line to take his maiden F1 victory. He is the first Frenchman to win an F1 in a French car since Alain Prost at the 1983 Austrian Grand Prix. Although it would not be the last time a French driver drove with French engine in the back. Well, with one difference, because it was under a British team, Williams, as Alain Prost, ironically enough, 10 years later, 93, took his final F1 victory in a Williams Renault at the 1993 German Grand Prix at the Hockenheim Ring. This would help him win his 4th Formula One World Championship before retiring. Previously, the last Frenchman to win an F1 before Esteban was Pierre Gasly at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza for Scuderia AlphaTauri. Interestingly enough, he set the fastest lap of the race, while his fellow Frenchman, Esteban, would go on to win his first F1 race ever. So while Vettel may have crossed the finish line in second, sadly he would be disqualified right after because of some regulations the FI demands of the fuel. Yeah, I know, it sucks, doesn't it, for Aston Martin fans, and you're wondering what kind of regulations? Well, considering that the fuel pump in his car failed shortly after crossing the line, FIA tells the teams to extract at least 1 full liter of fuel from the tanks for observation and for legality. Unfortunately, because of the fuel pump being broken, the team could only extract 0.3 liters at max, and the data read that they had at least 1.77 liters left, so unfortunately second place was just taken away, and this thrust Lewis Hamilton into second place and into the driver's lead, and Mercedes also now leads the constructors title away from Red Bull. And where does that put Carlos Sainz? That thrusts him forward in his Ferrari in 3rd place by default. And Max Verstappen finished 9th with 2 points to his tally. So he's got a lot of ground to make up if he's to retake the lead away from Lewis Hamilton. Even though Vettel has been disqualified, Aston Martin said they are planning to appeal this penalty. And, well, here's hoping he can get this penalty overturned, but it's going to be some time. But in the end, the FIA has the final word, and we'll see if Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz hold their positions on the podium or not. But in the end, Esteban Ocon is the big man who gets the big baguette tonight. So, magnifique, monsieur! Congratulations on your first victory in Formula One. I might have said in my last video that Jack Harvey has left Meyershank Racing. Not quite yet, as he's still racing for the team this year at least. He will leave at the end of the season, most likely for Rahal Letterman Lanigan. But he will be racing tomorrow for Meyershank Racing in the inaugural Indy Music Grand Prix in the streets of Nashville, Tennessee, the hometown of Indycar champion Joseph Newgarden of Team Penske. Can he win this one and please the locals, or can someone else do it? But either way it goes, this is going to be a very opening new experience for all the drivers, be it experienced or rookie, because this is a race course that no one has ever done before. It's going to be bumpy, it's going to be narrow and tight, and one of the biggest highlights of the race course is the fact that cars are going over a long bridge over the Cumberland River, the Korean Memorial Veterans Boulevard Bridge, and I tell you, that is definitely something that, no doubt there'll be divers underneath the bridge to make sure that if any car crashes and goes over, that they'll be on standby. Hopefully, we're not going for a swim this time. This is going to be new territory for the IndyCar drivers to charter, because this is a race course that has never been raced before. It's going to be very bumpy and very narrow, tight corners, 11 corners in all, and over 80 laps in this race, but only one's going to come out on top. Can local boy Joseph Newgarden be victorious? Or could Colton Herta, who set the fastest practice time in the first practice round, be the one to mess with? So, from the Korean Memorial Veterans Boulevard Bridge, alongside the Nissan Stadium that houses the Tennessee Titans, we're in for some very exciting racing in Indy cars, and it could also play a part in who will stay in the lead. Can Alex Palou, even though he's got a grid penalty for an unapproved engine change, maintain his points lead over Patricio Ward, or can Patricio Ward or even Scott Dixon pass Palou for the championship lead? This is a race of uncertainty. In fact, David Land on YouTube has compared the entire Nashville layout with the Baku GP, saying it's America's Baku. In other words, narrow corners, just like the castle corner at Baku, and here's the comparisons. Yeah, doesn't that just get you tangled up? It's definitely gonna make you feel like a pretzel. It is most likely we might get a red flag at one point in the race if someone crashes in the wrong place and blocks up the track. But who knows? If this race is successful, what changes will be made, if any, for next year if Nashville is successful enough to continue a second time on? Nonetheless, some people are looking forward to this. Already it is a big attraction, and some people are saying it is a catalyst in the economic recovery in the area. So I wish all the IndyCar drivers good luck in the race in Nashville, and of course, winning is always music to one's ears. Well, that's it for this video. I'll leave you with the results of the F1 GP in Hungary, as you see a one virtual lap run of the Nashville circuit. And I like to say thank you to all my subscribers. I have reached over 100 at last. I know it doesn't seem much in the way, but like, hey, no success was built in one day of any kind, so I appreciate the fact that I now have reached over 100 subscribers on this channel. If you like my videos, please subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends. I always like to hear your comments, and click that notification bell to be notified of the latest posts. And let's see who comes out on top in Nashville. I'm Aaron Cylinder, firing on all cylinders.